All right, welcome back, Powers on Sports Podcast. Appreciate you finding us. Week one in the books in the National Football League. Week two in the books in the college ranks, and we're going to talk to somebody that covers them both and is on site every single weekend for CBS and for ESPN Monday Night Football coverage. We've had him on the podcast a couple of times a year for the last couple of years. Mr. David Moulton, who works. He is man of many hats. He works for Sirius XM, NFL Radio. He has his own radio show, Miller and Moulton, Monday through Friday, 6 to 10 a.m. He works with the CBS guys, Gary Danielson and Brad Nessler, and he's also part of the Monday Night crew with Troy and Joe. Mr. Moulton, welcome back, sir.
Jason, great to get your call. How you been?
I'm doing well. We're finally here after 9 months of having to wait it out.
Come
Preseason
on now.
garbage.
You're tougher than you think. Come on, you can still do it, but it is. Absence makes the heart grow fond. I think this is the only part of life where it works, right? Everything else, absence doesn't make the heart grow fonder except
Right.
football.
Exactly. A little atrophy in our body, and we finally get the juices flowing again.
Yep.
Come Labor Day weekend. So, all right, let's you had the pleasure, the beautiful pleasure of being in Eugene, Oregon
Oh,
Saturday
for
for
goodness
69
sakes.
to 3.
And it could have been a lot worse. They had the third stringers in the whole fourth quarter.
I
I
mean,
mean, they didn't throw a pass. Oklahoma State didn't throw a pass in the fourth quarter, and it was still 69 to 3.
yeah.
Wow.
I
Never seen a Power Four team. Although we had Notre Dame, Purdue last year, which I think was 63 to 3, something
right.
like that. But you don't expect when two Power Four teams are playing that that's going to happen. I'll say this. I did not think of Oregon this year like we thought of
Right.
Oregon last year because they lost Dylan Gabriel, 6-year quarterback, and they lost a few other guys. They're stronger on the interior of their defensive line.
Yep.
They're deeper at running back. I don't know if their wide receivers are elite, but they're good. And Jason, the quarterbacks
Yep.
for real.
Yep.
We have all these young, inexperienced quarterbacks for elite programs right now in college football. That's why the ones with experience stand out so much, like Nussmeier at LSU, Kubinik at Clemson, and a couple of others. So I don't know about you, but didn't you think this season was almost going to be defined by which young slash inexperienced
Yep.
quarterback is going to step in and hit the ground running, and that team is going to be the best they can be?
That's right.
Whereas other teams, Arch, Bryce Underwood,
Saying at
slaying
Ohio State.
right. We know they're talented. We know they're going to be good. It's just, are they going to be good right now?
When we need them,
Are they
right?
going to be good in time for this year,
Right.
or are they going to be really good next year?
Right.
And I think the Oregon kid can play. I really do. Drake Moore, I think he can play. And that means we may have to look at them a
Yep.
little differently.
And he was a big recruit coming out a couple years ago. Was he Arch's class? I think he might have been Arch's class. I think he
Yes.
sat 2 years and now he's playing.
Well, it's fascinating. He's going to Oregon originally because the head coach, Dillingham of Arizona State's the OC.
Right.
He leaves to go to Arizona State and he decides, I'll go to Chip Kelly
Right.
in UCLA. It's not really a fit. It doesn't work. Then he goes back to Oregon and he waits a year. Okay. And now here he is. And he said, I was cool waiting a year because I knew I was in the right place.
Yep.
And he said, so I'm not in a hurry. He's got a great per- personality, yet quiet leadership at the same time. I now look at Oregon, and it's not because of what they did to Oklahoma State. It's just if you now look at Oregon on tape, you go, oh, this is probably a top 5 team
They're
in the
real.
country.
They're real.
Yeah, they're every bit as real as they were last year.
Give me a thought on Arch. Obviously, we all thought Arch was going to the Hall of Fame week one. Again, do we think he's going to be good? Sure. What have you noticed about Arch? And again, how Sark has handled it. He had a little controversy this week about the elbow grimace and all that stuff, and all that stuff. Just give me a thought on Arch and what you saw with Arch and some other young guy. You said Sayin, Underwood at Michigan. The younger guys. Give me a thought or two about those young guys.
Well, could you have a tougher start than Arch had this year? Now, granted, he's not a freshman. Okay, he's been around for 2 years and he had started what, four previous games. So I think we expected him to not look like a completely inexperienced quarterback. And quite frankly, he did for
Right.
3 quarters. But then again, he's playing against a bunch of pros who were being coordinated by a pro.
Right.
Okay. So he on the road. So, those Texas wide receivers are going to win most battles. They didn't win a lot of battles because Ohio State's looking at the Texas receivers going, we practice against better ones every day, right? I mean, your 5-star ain't as good as our 5-star. I'll just
Right.
say that right now. So Arch will be fine. The Texas schedule's hard, though.
Yep.
It is. I think I've always thought all year the key game for Texas was the Florida matchup coming up in 3 or so weeks. And I think also that could be the game that totally tips the scales one way or the other for Napier. So I think that's going to be a really big game for both programs for completely different reasons.
Yep. All right, let's go. Speaking of the state of Florida, again, a little resurgence here. You and I have lived in this state a long time. We're finally got some competitiveness. Florida State looks like they're back. Miami looks pretty good. USF is now the darling of college football through 2 weeks. And then you have the Florida situation, which is kind of murky. So give me a thought or two about Florida State, Miami, USF.
Well, let's start with South Florida. All right. I was talking to Bud Elliott recently from 24/7 Sports and a few other outlets, and he said in his mind, if South Florida wins the American, okay, they will without question be the group of 5 representative. And I said, hold on a second. Well, what if they lose to Miami? And then what if, the American has got Memphis, who they play on the road. They've got Navy, who they
Yep.
play on the road.
Yep.
They don't play Tulane, but who knows? They could play Tulane in the
Title
conference
game.
championship game.
Yep.
So what if they lose, 2, 3 games? Usually the group of 5 representative has to have a donut. And he said, well, David, they beat Boise, who's the best team in the Mountain West, or if not, their second best, and they routed them. And he said, and the American looks far and away to be the best group of 5 conference. He goes, so I don't care if they're a 10-3 conference champion or an 11-2 conference champion, and I don't care what they do against Miami. He goes, I'm telling you right now, the non-conference wins that they've put on the board, he thinks South Florida, by winning the American, will be a lock for the playoff. And then think about, Jason, what that could do for South Florida. I mean, the ACC should have grabbed South Florida instead of Cal and Stanford anyway.
Right.
But if South Florida does making the playoff keep goalless, think about it. You can't leave. You're playing, I mean,
Yeah.
how big could this be for South Florida for the next 10 years? What's going on right now. And for those of us who have been around this program, who saw Jim Leavitt take it to number 2 in the country, who saw Skip Holtz go into South Bend and beat Notre Dame and rise to number 2
Have a new
in
stadium
the polls.
getting built. New stadium opens.
I mean, now you wonder, and who, the whole UCF South Florida, struggle and what I don't know. We've all wanted, who've spent time in Florida, to have all 5 teams at the same level. And I hope that this season can be as special for South Florida as it started because of what it could do. Quickly about Florida State, Jason, it looks like Norvell is going to live the wild life where he's going to rely heavily year in, year out on the portal.
Yep.
Doesn't that mean that Florida State is most likely to be the most unpredictable team in the state?
Yeah.
Because when it hits, they go 13-0 and probably should have played for a championship. When it doesn't hit, they go 2-10.
Right.
Okay. And now when it hits, they could be 4-0 hosting Miami,
right,
in which we're all talking about the glory days. And so that's why, to me, we might be able to make the case, Jason, no team represents college football in its current state more so than Florida State.
You're right. No, you're right. Because Miami and Florida want to recruit high school guys. That's kind of their MO with Napier
Yes,
and Cristobal. So they want to do
yes,
more of that than Florida State does.
yes. And as for Mario, listen, uh, he did a terrific job turning Oregon into a consensus top 10 team. But we all can question his in game coaching, and we all can question whether or not he can win the big games, because he got Oregon 2 big games, but he didn't win a ton
Right,
of them.
right.
And Miami had a chance last year and should have played for the ACC title and blew it. So, until Mario gets over that hump as a coach, I think we'll all sit back and watch Miami and go, boy, if they ever figure it out. I mean, they could be the Canes again, if you know what I mean, Jason.
Oh, sure I do. I
Because
sure
think
do.
about it, if he and they can get over the hump and get it done one time, they should be able to get it done for 10 years.
I'm with you in that conference, especially
Yes.
in that
Yes. By the
conference.
way, how great would it be if South Florida joined? We'd have Miami, Florida
Right,
State, and South Florida all in
right,
the same conference.
right. And that's probably the next natural move if they're going to expand is somebody's going to come get South Florida if they have a good
Well,
year.
well, that's just it, Jason. I mean, it's one thing for South Florida to want the ACC, but could South Florida get it to the point, the Tampa St. Pete market, top 15 in the country, a brand new on campus stadium? There's the old AD who just left to go to Navy, really got the money, people, to
Yep.
start kicking it in. I mean, does the ACC actually want South Florida?
Right.
Because South Florida has wanted them for 5 years. They haven't reciprocated. Now will the ACC actually go, we got to get South Florida?
And they just announced a new AD hire yesterday. USF did. So they've got their new guy in place. He runs the Tampa Bay Sports Commission.
Well,
They hired
yeah, but that's good. He's got
yeah,
all the contacts. And what does he
money,
have? Contacts to thank you.
money,
Thank you.
money, money. If Billy Napier gets beat soundly this week in Baton Rouge and gets beat next week in Miami, does he even make it through the bye week to get to Texas?
I do. I'm not sure there's anybody on staff they really want to be an interim coach for 8 games.
Right.
Here's another reason why. Not the buyout, because the buyouts will be down to 20 million at the end of this year, and the Gators can come up with 20.
Easily,
50,
yes.
70 is a different story. They can come
Yes.
up with 20. To me, though, Jason, in this day and age, if you get rid of a coach that early, the entire team talks to their agent and advisor and starts lining up where they're going. So once they start doing that, they're quitting on the Gators.
Yep.
So then that season's, I mean, quite frankly, what happens? Florida State of 2024 happens,
Right.
only they didn't fire the coach. That team, once they lost a few early games, they all started planning for 2025.
Yep.
And so to me, see, the problem for the Billy is he's got 2 bye weeks. Okay. He's got the first one, and it could be ugly. It could be 1-3 playing Texas out of the bye. But then he plays like Texas, Texas A&M, Mississippi State, something like that, Kentucky.
Yep.
And then he's got a bye before Georgia. And what I worry about is if they're like 2-5 heading into the cocktail party.
Yep.
And I will call that the cocktail party for the rest of my life, by the way. I don't.
You're allowed. No penalties here.
Thank you. Thank you. It's the Civil War. Okay. I mean, I'll just go coast to coast here if you want. I'll be as politically incorrect as possible.
There you go.
But my fear for Billy and the Gators is if he's 2-5, do they let him coach the cocktail party?
Right.
And the answer is probably not. And then that's still a long period of time for the guys to line up their next gig before you can line up your coach.
Right.
Unless you're hiring somebody who currently doesn't have a gig.
Who lives in Tampa?
Whose name is?
Mr. Garudin.
Bingo. Okay. Which is why, by the way, if this scenario happens, I think he will get interviewed and he will be seriously pursued because time is very much of the essence to keep the roster, to keep Lagway.
That's it. Lagway. Yep.
And
Exactly.
so that's why I think, this isn't just sports talk, headlines and clicks. That's why I think this is real, because if you go through the
The
timing,
calendar matters.
yes, it matters more than ever. And it could work in John Gruden's favor, because if they're talking Lane Kiffin or Alex Golish or anybody else, you're going to have to wait 6, 8, 10+ weeks.
Yep.
And that could lose your whole roster.
Yep. Yeah. You're right. It's a
This
great
isn't
point.
this isn't like the past. Remember, Jeremy Foley hired Ron Zook
Yep.
because he was worried about the recruiting class. He wasn't worried about his current roster leaving,
Right.
but he hired Zook quickly because he said, "I got to hire somebody, or we're going to lose this recruiting class." You're going to lose your roster now, not a recruiting class. You lose your roster now.
Great point. Great point. You are going to be at USC and Purdue up in West Lafayette. Gary Danielson, a Purdue guy, going back home one more time, probably the last time he goes to West Lafayette. Again, Gary is retiring at the end. Just give me a little sense of just being around Gary for all these years and the experience of getting to work with him every week.
It's our 20th year together. We've become very good friends. Um, he's not an emotional guy outwardly, not outwardly overly sentimental. My guess is he will be a little bit. He is in the Purdue Athletics Hall of Fame. He married the longtime Purdue's athletic director's daughter, like 53 years ago. Okay. From the press box, he can see their house,
Oh,
where
wow.
in the early days of marriage, he was living with his wife in the
Wow.
basement, and he can see the house from the press
Wow.
box. So
Wow.
my guess is it will hit him at some point. It is Gary had a funny line. Last year we went to Purdue early in the season, and last year was CBS's first full year in the Big Ten. They did a few Big Ten games in 23, but last year, no more SEC, full time Big Ten. We get out of the car by the stadium. And when you're in the SEC, it's a love-hate thing. I mean, there's as many, hey, Gary says, you suck, Gary, that sort of deal. You know,
Just
we
ask
go to
Vern. Just ask Vern.
yeah, we go to Purdue, and Gary's got people lined up, and they all want him to sign stuff, take pictures.
Yeah.
Okay. And so he does it all, and I'm waiting patiently. And when it's done, he turns and he looks at me and he goes, a little different reception here in the Big Ten, huh?
That's great. That's great. Oh, that's funny, funny, funny. All right, give the audience a little travel note. You live in Jacksonville. Give us the travel itinerary from Jacksonville to get to Eugene and then to have to get to Chicago for Monday Night Football. How did that go?
For 69-3 also. I mean, the travel gods are not happy with me. Let's see, it was Jacksonville to Dallas, Dallas to Portland, and then it's a 2-hour ride in a car south to Eugene. Um, Eugene Outson Stadium for 50 something thousand. Boy, is it noisy. It's gorgeous also. It's almost like being in New England in late September, early October in terms of the foliage and the trees. And wow, is it beautiful? I mean, man, oh man. And very loud, and they're very comfortable with it being like a 52,000 seat stadium.
Yeah.
They got no plans to make it some 70, 80,000 seat monster. Quaint place. All right. Wished the game would have been a little better. So then you drive back to Portland after the game. You sleep near the hotel, and you take a 6 a.m. flight to O'Hare,
All right.
and you get in around the first quarter of the Sunday games. And, for the 425 games, you go to Giordano's and have some deep dish pizza, and,
There you
you
go.
make a day of it.
That a boy, that a boy, that a boy. All right, let's get to the National Football League. Have you ever seen? I mean, I know there's been some wild finishes, but Baltimore Buffalo Sunday night.
No, that's up there.
I mean, that's
No,
top
that's up
five
there.
probably all time, huh?
Against a team that we think is really good.
Right.
Really good teams usually don't end up on the losing end of something like that. That was nuts. That really was. I mean, when Bills fans were leaving the stadium,
Oh yeah.
I mean, with 4 minutes to go, they were leaving. I mean, Josh Allen taking a shot at his own fan base for giving up on them. Yeah, that was nuts to get the fumble. And also, Jason, in this day and age, to get a 3-and-out. Do you know how few 3-and-outs there are now? I mean, take a look. Part of the reason for those that gamble that the under went 12-4 last week in the NFL is there's a lot fewer possessions, Jason, than there's ever been. Were 3 games last week in which both teams had the ball 9 times. There were like 5 games last week in which both teams had the ball 10 or less. I mean, that's Army Navy type
Right. Right.
possessions in a
Right.
game. So when you're holding on to the ball 5 and 6 minutes seemingly every time, you get less possessions. Eventually in the red zone, you stop them a couple times. They settle for field goals. Now everybody goes for it on fourth down. They don't always convert. And next thing you know, you look up at the end of the day and you're like, wow, the team moved the ball up and down the field. They only scored 20 points.
I was
And so,
shocked Harbaugh didn't go for it 4th and 3
uh,
with what had just happened the last 3 minutes and the momentum of
yes,
that building.
I, I, I wasn't shocked, but I was surprised. I was. And if you think about it, for the way they had played for 3.5 quarters, to then have a 2-play fumble and a 3-and-out, you couldn't count on that. And that's part of why it was such an amazing. That probably also will determine home field advantage for the AFC
Yes.
Championship game. Okay. I do think for the first time during this Bills run, and they've won the second most games in the league next to only Kansas City, and they have essentially nothing to show for it because they haven't been to the big game and obviously haven't won it. But the road has never gone through Buffalo.
Right.
Okay. They've lost playoff games at home to Cincinnati and in Kansas City, but the road has never had to go through Orchard Park. I have a feeling you look at their schedule,
Yep.
it's pretty soft. And now that they beat Baltimore,
And Kansas
does
City
the
looks a little vulnerable.
does the road finally go through Orchard Park in the final year
Yes.
of
Yes.
them playing in Ralph Wilson Stadium? And just throwing this out there, the Patriots dynasty started the final year they were playing in the old stadium in Foxborough. The final game ever played in that stadium was the Tuck, play.
Raiders. Yep.
Right. And so you just wonder, is this going to be one of those years for the Bills, little magical final year at Ralph Wilson Stadium, 65 years in it?
Yep.
And do they finally win?
Give me a thought on the Parsons trade. What are your thoughts? I know obviously many people think Dallas didn't get enough. Were they winning a championship this year with Parsons? Who knows? Just give me your thought on the Parsons trade and what it does for both teams.
Well, the problem for the Cowboys was they were in cap hell
Mm-hmm.
before the trade. And that's what was all Jerry's doing. He waited last minute to do the Dak deal, overpaid him. Last minute for CD Lamb, had to pay him a lot more. So
Yep.
Jerry did it to himself, but they were in a very bad cap situation and re-signing Micah, which they should have done, but they should have done it a year and a half earlier
Right.
with everybody, and they wouldn't be in the hell that they're in. But as for the trade, of course he didn't get enough. I mean, a 30-year-old defensive lineman and 2 late first-round picks is not enough. Also, I think in a way it was what Green Bay needed. Think about what they did this offseason. They finally drafted a wide receiver in the first round, and they went out and they got a difference maker. In which, if you think about it, did the Packers on either side of the ball have a difference maker 6 months ago?
No.
Not unless you
Good
thought
players.
Jordan
Good
Love,
players.
not right. Not unless you thought Jordan Love was elite. But you looked at the Packers and you said, there's a lot of good here. There's some very good, but they can't win a championship. I mean, it was telling last year, Jason, they lost 7 games all year. 2 to the Lions, 2 to the Vikings, 2 to the Eagles. The elite teams last year they couldn't beat. They beat
Yeah,
everybody else.
that's right.
And so also to me, this coincides with, if you look back over the last 30 plus years for the Packers, they went and got Reggie White. Now, and Brett Favre develops, and next thing you know, They're going to 2 Super Bowls. Then when they make the transition to Rodgers, what did they do right around the same time? They got Charles Woodson.
That's right.
The development of Rodgers, Woodson, and the defense, and boom, you win a Super Bowl. I think this could be the same thing.
I
Jordan
agree.
Love may, with the help of finally having better talent around him, may take that big jump. And oh, by the way, now you can have a difference maker on defense.
That's right.
I don't know if it happens this year, but I think in the next 3 years, I think they get to the Super Bowl at least once. And if you think about it, they've done a lot of winning, Jason, in the last 15 years. They haven't been in the Super Bowl in 15 years.
Right. Right. No doubt. No doubt. And I actually would, and I'll give Dallas credit. I thought they were pretty buttoned up in the first game against Philly. Played pretty well. They were
I
organized.
agree.
I think Schottenheimer could do a decent job there.
Well, and let's be honest. When the game was over, if we asked the question, who was the best player on the field tonight, wasn't the answer Dak Prescott?
Yes.
I mean, he looked terrific. So, if you have a top 10, top 8, top 6 quarterback, which he certainly played like it against the Eagles, then you can win more games than people think. And I agree with you, by the way. Schottenheimer 15 years ago was on the short list to be a head coach
A lot of
when he
places.
was helping Mark Sanchez and the Jets go to back-to-back AFC championship games.
Right.
And then the guy spends 12 plus years in the abyss. He didn't forget how to coach. He just got caught in a bad spot.
Right. Yeah. I was pleasantly surprised. And again, if a $35 million receiver doesn't drop 4 passes, they beat Philadelphia.
It really would help if the guy who's paid to catch the ball catches the damn ball.
All right, of the new coaches, we just mentioned Schottenheimer, Cohen, Kellen Moore, Vrabel, Pete Carroll. Any other guy that you want to think of? New guy. Who do you think's
Well,
got the best chance to make the most immediate impact?
well, I don't think we can count Vrabel and Pete Carroll, but I know what you're getting at. I'll say this, and it's not just because I live in Jacksonville. And let me tell you, it's tougher to be bigger in a city than the Jags are in Jacksonville. I mean, I think the Packers are in Green Bay, but it's close. I mean, man, they drink the Kool-Aid here. They cannonball into the deep end of the Kool-Aid in Jacksonville about the Jags. But this Cohen guy is interesting.
He can
I
call
mean, he
plays
is.
now.
He can, and not only that, he does have a little McVay quality to him, a
Yep.
O'Connell quality. The
Yep.
younger guy who is gifted at calling plays, yet at the same time can command the respect of the room.
Yep.
And it can be tough with the room. McVay's always smiling. O'Connell's great with the media, always smiling. It doesn't mean they don't look a player in the eye and give it to him.
That's
And
right.
with the cold hard truth. And he's got it. I really do think he's got it. It's all going to depend on, can Trevor Lawrence live up to what we
Yep.
thought he was going to be? But I think that's a good situation. It's a soft division.
Yep.
Okay. The roster's not devoid of talent. Okay. They have a tough early schedule. They do. After I think, last week and this week, they've got about a 6-week stretch, which, they could suffer a few L's, but I'm bullish on Cohen and Jacksonville long term.
I agree. I loved him when he was in Tampa. The demeanor he had about him.
Yeah.
I really, really, really like him, and I think that's going to be an excellent hire. 0-2 team. The significance of starting 0-2. We're heading into week 2. Kansas City, Detroit did not look very good. Give me just talk about the significance and just the numbers of if you're 0-2, the percentage of going to the playoffs goes way down.
The Chiefs, I know they're the Kansas City Chiefs. I know they're Andy Reid and they're Patrick Mahomes. Every game they played last year seemed like a 1 to 4 point game, and they managed to be on the good end of all of them. It was a very fine line for the Chiefs last year. They were 15-2. They could have been 10-7 really easily. The first 6 weeks, Jason, without Rashee Rice, that's not that difficult a team to defend.
Right.
And in the first 6 weeks, played the Chargers, lost. They're going to play the Ravens, the Bills, and the Lions.
And Philly this week.
And Philly. Okay, the Bills, I think, are just outside the first 6 weeks. I think they might be week 8 or week 9.
Yep.
But the Chiefs' schedule is not favorable
Right.
until like November-ish. And so I know it's difficult for us to think about a 3-3, 4-4 Kansas
Yep.
City Chiefs, but it would not shock me if it's first week of November and the Chiefs are 500. That's the team because of the conference they're in and the surroundings that, I mean, look at the division. I mean, it's not a big slip to go from first to third in the AFC West.
Right.
And if you all of a sudden, if you're a third place team, you're fighting just to make the playoffs. So I think without Rashee Rice, the other receivers hurt, I think they're vulnerable early. And I think, they'll eventually be the Chiefs again, but I wonder how many losses they will suffer along the way.
How worried are you about Detroit, what you saw last week?
Here's the thing that I'm most concerned about. They tried to poo-poo losing the center to retirement and the guard to free agency. Yeah, Detroit went from having the best or second best line in the league to getting manhandled by the Packers. That's what I'm most concerned about, more so than the brain drain. More so, can this defense ever be really good? I'm concerned about the interior of the offensive line,
Yep.
Jason. The strength of the Lions for the last 2.5 years has been they beat the tar out of people up front.
Yep.
That's why Ben Johnson was able to run. They ran the ball 46% of the time in Detroit and scored all those points. It's a much more conservative offense than you think. They don't throw deep and they run the ball almost half the time. And yet they scored 29 points a game. Why? Because they had one of the top two offensive lines in the league. Jason, that is what I would look at for Detroit going forward. Rookie center, new guard. Are they good enough or not?
And collapsing the pocket, golf can't move a lick, affects the
Exactly.
passing game.
Yes. Yes. So losing Zeitler and the retirement of Ragnow, probably a year before they were ready to
Yep.
overcome that.
Right.
I wonder if that's going to derail their season.
All right, Mr. Moulton, great job, great work. I know ESPN's got a couple double headers in ABC the next several weeks. You're going to be Houston, Tampa Bay, correct?
Correct. Baker and the
That's
boys.
it, baby. That's it. Late game's going to be Vegas and the Chargers with
Yep.
a different crew of guys, but you will be with Joe and Troy in Houston this week. Great work again. See Dave. You'll see David all over Sirius XM as on XM Radio, Big Ten CBS, Miller and Moulton 6 to 10 a.m. Eastern Time in the state of Florida. Give us the website where they can listen on demand as well. Correct?
Well, and millerandmoulton.com, every segment is podcasted and we have some good interviews, so check it
Great
out.
stuff.
But, there's some of the stations that carry us. Some are iHeart, some are this, some are that. So we're on a few different places, but millerandmoulton.com, you can podcast the show and it's not bad.
David has as big a Rolodex of anybody in college and NFL as anybody in America. So great guests all over the place throughout their show. And again, he does great stuff on Sirius XM Radio with Pat Kerwin and the boys and all those guys and all the great stuff you do behind the scenes on Saturdays and Monday nights. So David, have a great year. Have a great travel schedule. No sitting on the tarmac a whole lot. I hope not. No
I hope
tarmac
not
issues.
either. Hey, now come on, don't forget about me the rest of the football season. Don't be afraid to invite me back.
I love to have you anytime you're available. You got this is a busy 16 weeks for you, man.
That's all right. You know when I'm available. Give me a holler.
I appreciate it, David. Have a great week and have a great week 2, week 3 of the football world. And we'll be right back. Powers on Sports Podcast.